Okay, a warm welcome to our first ever members Zoom meeting. It's great to have so many on the call. And as everybody joined, they seem to get smaller and smaller, but a special guest appearance we've had from Posh and Beck was most unexpected, so great to have you on the call. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Gordon Barron, the Chief Executive. And to help with the flow of things and to make things go as smoothly as possible tonight, I'd like to run through a few protocols that I made. And as well as the protocols to give you an idea how things will work. So, other than the directors to answer the questions, could everybody else place yourself on mute, please, just to save background from having background noise? Okay, thank you. We will answer the questions that were submitted in advance and are circulated the best as I got them in this morning, but there's been others since. But you will have the opportunity to ask any questions or make comment yourselves. But to do that, please, could you let the chair know that you wish to speak by typing in the chat box. Now, each device is slightly different, but for some, if you go to the menu at the bottom, there's chat. Others, you may need to go into more, and maybe a drop-down box for chat, or it may actually say raise your hand. So if you could indicate that you have a question or actually type the question in, then that allows us to come back to you once the existing questions have been answered. That'd be a great help. Thank you. I'll watch out for these and kind of control things coming through and advise the chair accordingly. So if you've got a question or a comment to make, look out for that chat, and if you could just let us know that you've got a question or type the question in. You may notice that the meeting is recorded, and that is in the interest of openness and transparency. And our hope is that we can share it in the website. This will allow the opportunity for anyone that's unable to attend to hear what's going on and happening at the Ice Centre. The person who submitted the question will be named. Michael, the chairman, is going to read out each of the questions that have been submitted, and then a board member will answer the question that's been submitted. And as indicated, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions and have your say by alerting the chair through the chat, the raise your hand facility. But can I urge that you keep things fresh and moving along? Let's duplicate things. Please just raise new comment or chair questions to the chair. So anything is different you'd like to bring to the table. And I'll now hand you over to Michael Green, our chairman and chair for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you. Welcome everybody, and thank you very much for attending our Q&A, which is the first of what we intend to be a regular interaction between the board, staff, members and users. Now, firstly, I'd like to say a big thank you to the board of directors and staff for all the hard work and effort they put in during the lockdown. The board members put in an amazing shift. There's been new committees set up, there's been Zoom meetings, there's board meetings every week, every second week as required. The staff, Keith did a superb job with the shutdown. He put in some shift. And while the staff are furloughed for 3 weeks, Gordon, Keith, Amanda and Graham come back for 1 week each. So on a rota, there's always somebody at the ice rink carrying out the various functions that are required. So a great shift and a big thank you to both the board members and the staff. Now, ahead of specific questions, I want to give you a brief outline of the structures that are in place and the resources that are available to us to address the challenge raised by the COVID-19. And there's 4 key points I'd like to make. The first one is, as soon as we went into the lockdown, we decided to form a reopening committee. Now that committee is chaired by Brenda McIntyre and was given the brief to create curling protocols and procedures, plus to work with the staff to integrate into a master plan all the other guidelines coming from ice hockey and from skating. So Brenda's leading the curling reopening committee, and she's also overseeing the overall reopening procedures which we're formulating. The second thing, we've received guidelines from all 3 sports, and I think you've had the return to curling, which has been circulated. That was issued on June the 11th and is kind of a living document, and it'll be updated as changes are announced and things evolve. We've also received guidelines from British Skating, which Amanda has and is working with, and we've had the phased approach to COVID-19 from British Ice Hockey. There's also, as Brenda's finding out, and we're all finding out, a wealth of information online and advice from North America, rights there, practical hints, and also from Europe. So we've got the structures, there's a wealth of information. Third point is myself, board members and Keith are active members and participants in CIRA, which is the Scottish Rinks Association. And it's a very close working relationship with ARMA, sorry for all these acronyms, that's the Ice Rink Managers Association in England. Now, Tom Pendry, and many thanks to Tom, played a pivotal role in his role as Vice Chair of CIRA in liaising and getting a working relationship with the sort of ice rink fraternity in England. They operate on a much bigger scale than we do, and as it seems likely they'll be opening up earlier than us, we'll get vital feedback ahead of our reopening. So we've got a valuable tool there for ideas and feedback. There are resources and structures in place to implement the guidelines and facilitate a safe and successful opening. The fourth point I would make is communications, and this has always been a historic weakness, shall we say. And we formed a communications committee, which is headed by James McRae, and you'll hear more from James later. But as I say, communications are vital, and all that's going on, we need to let you know. So after that, I think we'll just move to the questions. Thank you. So the first questions, there are four from Mo Simpson. Thank you, Mo. And we split them into into two parts. And the first is 1, 2, and 3, which is what safety measures and facilities, in particular access to toilets, will be put into place for the wheelchair curlers and other disabled users. The second question is, how are you going to allocate the club's ice time, given everyone will be wanting it, and what measures are put in place for social distancing? 3, some of our younger curlers, junior teams upstairs before each session, and their parents state and spectate what facilities will be available for them. Well, Brenda's in charge of the reopening committee, so Brenda will give you a response to that. So over to Brenda.
Thanks, Michael. Your questions, Mo, thank you. They seem quite specific. And at this point right now, I could not give you a specific answer to each of them, but as you know, it's ever changing, and who'll know what will be in place come September. But safe to say that I can tell you we are currently, as Mike said, gaining proposals for reopening in all 3 sports, and our subcommittees are working hard on that. Constantly sourcing the best practice information from all these governing bodies, as Mike said, CIRA, IRMA, and so you can rest assured at all times we will comply with these guidelines and the law to really ensure a safe and clean place for each and every one coming into the centre. Risk assessments will be done, and very shortly, and things like the deep cleaning will start. So training that requires for staff will be done, and the signage, floor markings, sanitising stations, all these things are in our minds to be worked through, so that by the time the season starts, you'll be fully informed, and hopefully everyone will be confident in their return to the rink.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Okay, we'll move on to the last question from Mo. What, if any, contingency plans do the rink have if it opens, then suddenly there is another peak of the virus? And that's over to Gordon.
Well, I think everybody would want to avoid a second peak, but like the old adage, we've got to prepare for the worst and kind of hope for the best. But notwithstanding that, we need to consider every possible situation and scenario. We did that the last time, and we need to do it again. Our first priority would continue to be the safety of staff and visitors to the centre. We of course follow the government guidelines. I mean, that's critical, so I couldn't see that would be any different. In all likelihood, we'd probably have to shut the ice centre again, and again that would go into the same sort of cycle that we've been following the last few months, and we'd review the steps that would be taken and act accordingly. I'll not go over who we've consulted with, but I'll add another few into the mix just to give comfort to everybody listening that we're not working in splendid isolation. In addition to the associations that Michael and Brenda has already referred to, I regularly dial into the Chamber of Commerce in meetings like these to find out what's going on from a broader industry perspective. I've consulted with the health and safety specialist. I'm an employment law specialist that we employ. We're consulting with the national governing bodies, curling, ice hockey and skating, and we continue to do that. And we've also poured over the detail that comes out daily, and well, certainly it's starting to make daily, but certainly in a weekly from the government coronavirus website. And all that would help us formulate a plan and a contingency mode. But I'd also add to it that I think this initiative and the call we're on just now is that would also be part of the plan as well. This is the start of many, and would be consulting and say, right, how would all this work? I think for any charity business organisation, if there's a second wave, it would put more pressure on the financials, and we wouldn't be alone in that. But I'd like to kind of give a level of reassurance that we acted quickly first time around, undecisively, and it's putting us in the best footing that we could be as we are on this call just now. From a financial perspective, for example, our quick actions meant we were able to tap into grant assistance that were available, reduce our costs through furloughing all the staff, and I would like to add to Michael's comments that it's not just before it's doing the cycle at the moment, keeping an eye on the premises, but all the staff and the patients. It's a strange thing. I think some mornings we'd want to stay at home, but it's funny enough, when you're staying at home every day, it then becomes a bit of a chore. So I like to thank all staff for that. But also we've reduced our costs considerably, and Michael made reference to earlier, working with Keith to defrost the pad, which significantly reduces our costs. We're in good financial shape. We've got contingencies in place. We do the same should there be a second wave, but without a shadow of doubt, there would be more financial pressure should it be a second wave. And I think on that, I'll pass back to you, Michael.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Gordon. There's some points been raised, I think, on the chat, so if you want to edit that, we'll move on to questions from Ormond Smith. I should just point out there'll be a lot of financial information, or more financial information given at the end from the questions from Dean Clark, which some of you may not have seen. So there'll be more clarification there at the end. So on to Ormond. Ormond, thank you for your questions. The first one, the curlers bar is often full of curlers. Happy days, the sooner that comes back, particularly at session changeover times and at Boynesboro competitions. With little, if any, room available to accommodate these numbers, should social distancing continue, how does the Ice Centre foresee social interaction within the curlers bar? Gordon, back to you.
We, of course, will follow the government guidelines on this and continue to do so around the social distancing, and we will only open the bar when it's safe to do so. It's the same as any area or any other organisation as well, and we're not going to take risks with people's lives. And as Michael was saying there, I think we all look forward to the day that we can go back to a level of normality. But Ormond, for the reasons it actually you raised there, the bar would remain closed for now, and we would just follow the government guidelines and the social distancing, and would progress through that. We certainly wouldn't be in a position to open the bar just now. It just wouldn't be safe to do so.
Okay. Thanks, Gordon. So on to question 6, again from Ormond. On the same topic of available space, currently it has always been a crush to accommodate 40 curlers for drinking in the upper level of the bar area, even with the use of the terrace room, if indeed available. How do the Ice Centre foresee continuance of Boinspiel competition dining with regard to present social distancing requirements. Well, I'll address that, Ormond, and I would draw your attention to the return to curling guidelines and quote, food and beverage may be offered based on Scottish Government guidance on bar, cafes and restaurants. We follow the guidelines at all times as a bare minimum. We'll always look to our best practice and to create that safe environment. So it's very much a case of, as situations develop, bars, restaurants are opening up down in England. So, we'll see how that goes down there. Specifically with Boinspiels, the consensus, and this is just a sort of straw poll around the sort of board, we were thinking it was unlikely that there would be Boinspiels this side of Christmas. We'd like to see Boinspiels, but we'll have the flexibility to put Boinspiels on and the capacity, but very much following the guidelines, but we don't realistically think that this side of Christmas it will be feasible or allowed. So, on to the next question, Ormond. Continuing on the space aspect, the changing rooms are only just coping with numbers, particularly at Boinspiels and competitions. What thoughts have been given to changing facilities and should social distance remain in place for the rest of the year? Well, I'll address this. Again, it comes from the guidelines, and I quote, changing rooms and social areas may have altered usage. Members are encouraged to arrive changed and ready to curl as much as possible. Rinks to provide clear guidance on where curlers can change their footwear and leave any clothing. I think this is a good example for the reopening committee of whereby we've got a sort of instruction, direction from Scottish Curling. It's how we interpret that and how we walk it through for the actual ice rink in Inverness. So it's all very well to have the guidelines, it's how we interpret them, and that's what we will be doing from the moment folk arrive in the car park or other car parks till they leave after their session. We'll have all this worked out through, so we're not just going to rely on individuals' interpretations of the guidelines. There'll be strict procedures and protocols laid down for every step, and folk will be well informed of these in advance. Okay, there's more chat coming through, Gordon, if there's things just let me know.
Yeah, keeping an eye on that, Michael.
And as soon as there'll come a time with the reopening committee, and we want to keep you on this for the benefit of these interactive chats, is that we'll be able to update you, almost like present the minutes from this chat and tell you the progress that's being made. But there'll come a time when we have to issue guidelines and say, okay, this is what we're going with for the first half of the season or along those lines. So we'll keep you fully informed for this. So, again, it's from Ormond, it's to avoid cross-contamination of the coronavirus in the sport of golf, players are barred from using touching rakes, ball cleaners and green pins. In curling, although many participants have their own brooms, quite a number utilise ice centre brooms as well, boarding sliders, etc., etc. I get where you're coming from here, but again, I'll reiterate, Ormond, it's strict adherence to the guidelines, and it's our interpretation to ensure that happens and to provide a practical guide for the members. So again, it's where we're driven by the guidelines, and we will let members know early on what the procedures and protocols will be, so that they can enjoy a safe environment with confidence. This is our mantra. Last question from Ormond. Along similar hygiene lines, what steps do the Ice Centre intend to implement with regard to hygiene with the likes of ice pad barriers, scoreboards, etc., and items of specialised curling measuring equipment? Gordon.
Hi, before I answer that, there's a question about the Boinspiels up in the chat. I think Michael's answered it. We wouldn't foresee being Boinspiels this side of Christmas. I think there's another massive question out the elephant in the room. When do we expect to open? And I guess we're not in a stage to answer that, and that's all part of the reopening committee and working along with the guidelines. All these things come hand in hand, and that's why it's vitally important that we communicate regularly and have that level of involvement. Anyway, go back to Ormond's question, and my apologies for digressing. Around the hygiene lines, what's in plans for that? Well, Brenda touched on it earlier, and I don't want to go and cover the same points, but I will restate that we will get a health and safety audit specifically on health and safety of managing COVID-19, where's where weaknesses, get safe systems of work written up and risk assessments. That will then form the basis, and along with the other guidelines from the government and the Scottish Curling for staff training, we'll need to look at the roles how all that works. In terms of we're progressing and looking at external company to come into deep clean. Again, how often we do that. But on a day-to-day basis, there would be responsibility of the staff to wipe doors, the sanitising, cleaning, curling stone handles, cleaning other handles, and etc. etc. I mean, you know all the equipment's involved, and that then is something that we really need to set out and leave no stone unturned. But I think this is one where there needs to be absolute rigour, that it's every half an hour or every hour after every session, and that would all need to be followed without exception for everybody's safety. So the training, health and safety audit, deep cleans, and to sound like a broken record, is that we would follow the government and the governing body guidelines with that as well. It's just there are another level of cleaning and health and safety that none of us have experienced before, but it's for everybody's best interests at the end of the day.
Thanks, Gord. I would just put in the sort of things that we're looking at, and again, obviously announcing all these things near the time, but if say we're not allowed to open in September, then we open in October, then we take September's fixtures and we just possibly look at putting them into March. And if we can't open, and we just continue as per the October schedule. If we open halfway through October, we take the schedules that we can't fulfill and we put them forward to March or February. So folk will have schedules. I think to try and rearrange a whole schedule on a rolling basis would not be fair on the users. Nobody would be total confusion if the truth be known. So whenever we're allowed to open, I would suggest that what we will look at, I would favour, is picking up the schedule there and then that opening week, and fixtures that have got to be fulfilled we can push to the end of the season, or as folks can maybe arrange them individually themselves. So it's not going to be a case of everything's going to have to change if we can't open at a set particular time. We've got contingency plans and ideas to deal with. So moving on to the questions from Richard McKenzie, and thank you, Richard. There's some very good ones in here. The first one, a system needs to be put into place to collect membership fees from all ice activities that is essential now to keep the ice rink viable for all users. I absolutely agree. Now, we've set up a communications committee which has got a dual remit. One is to look at getting more effective communications, starting with what we're doing just now, and being more open, being more transparent, getting everything on the website, really interacting with the members, consulting with members, which we've done a lot with formulating our new plans, which we'll deal with later on. But we really need to have effective communications. James will deal with that in a minute, but the second part, apart from effective communications, is looking at the membership. What does it mean for the membership? Why are some folk members, other ones are not? So we're looking at the membership, and there's a lot of changes going to come in with the membership. We're looking at potentially, and the ideas that have been thrown about is maybe dual pricing. Folk that are members pay more, pay less. Folk that are not members pay more. But one thing that will be coming is contactless payment. This is a perfect opportunity, and whilst it's an ill wind, that will be one benefit, which will save staff, which will make more sensible, it follows best practice, and will create a safe environment. So James McRae, along with Gordon, is leading James especially, is leading the communications committee. So James, if you could give us a just short take on the brief, please.
Well, basically, at the moment, we don't have everybody's email addresses. We rely on other people passing on messages. So we think the only way that we can communicate with everybody and know that we've done that is to basically have a membership scheme where everybody joins. You get a benefit from joining, which would probably be, like Michael says, dual pricing. Prior to the lockdown, we'd actually been working on this with a view to implementing it by September. We still hope to do that, but obviously if things don't relax quickly enough, then we might not have time to pull all that together. It'll all be dependent on the technology that we can get. So the idea is going to be that we have a membership scheme, and then we set up through our website that people can pay online prior to playing. Something like that, at least, to see what the EPOS systems are able to provide us with. It'll be for all sports as well, hopefully, so the likes of ice hockey and figure skating can hopefully do the same thing. Obviously, people coming to public skate will continue to pay at the door, but we'll hopefully have terminals that it's all contactless payment. We need to stop collecting the money on the ice, basically. If for no other reason, it costs us a fortune to bank all the cash. So it would be ideal if basically everybody had paid before they stepped onto the ice. My preference would be to pay for even a half season or a whole season of all your province curling in advance, but we'd obviously take a vote from the members as to which kind of scheme they would rather go with once we've pulled together what we think the options are. And I guess the last thing would be if there's anybody out there that's actually got experience of these schemes, or if anybody has any ideas, then we're definitely open to getting those ideas from you. And I don't know if I can say much more.
No, that's fine. James, I would add in the point that the folk who have supplied the EPOS and maintained the EPOS system and will develop it for us are furloughed. So while we know what the questions we want answered, their ability to do it is well, it's zero at the moment. So as soon as they come back out of furlough, we will look at what we can do with the membership. But we will be, I would say it's almost a certainty, we will open with contactless payment as a must. It has to be. Okay, James, thank you for that. Richard, your second question. Will curlers be allowed to play back-to-back sessions? Brenda?
Yes, Richard. I see no reason why not. As before, if you've played back-to-back, the only thing would be we would maybe need to ask them to go back to their car to wait, because we will need extra time between the sessions for cleaning the stone handles and things like that. But basically, there's no reason why nobody could play back-to-back.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Question 12, third one from Richard. Any decision on the number of ice sheets to be used should be left as late as possible. Doubt if 3 sheets will be viable. Quite agree with you, Richard, and it will be, as a decision will be taken as late as possible. It might well be, we lay out 5, but socially distance and only play 3 for the first month or whatever period, and move to 5 when regulations allow. You could actually socially distance with 4 sheets with 1.9 metres. There are financial implications to 3 sheets, and we'll address that later. So I think the ceiling point to get is there'll come a time when we have to make a decision what we're going to do, but that's a lot further down the road. Okay, thank you. 2 more from Richard. As Match Secretary of Area 13, Highland and Murray, Scottish Curling, will we be able to run our usual 3 Saturday Bonspiels in November, January and February? And question 14, we need a minimum of 10 teams for these to work. Well, I'll ask Ali Cruikshank, who's been part of our scheduling committee, to address those 2 points. Ali.
Well, it's pretty much the same as we've heard before. We're going to try our level best to accommodate everything that we possibly can within the guidance that we have to work in. But following on from what Michael said earlier, there might possibly, although we've said Bonspiels were unlikely before Christmas, it might be possible to play the Bonspiels but without the social aspect of them. So, you play a game and then you have to go off and you can't intermix and stuff like that, same as playing back-to-back sessions. So there may be a possibility of doing that. But one of the things we have to wait and see before creating a proper schedule is what the demand is for curling ice in particular. So that, there's undoubtedly going to be changes. So again, it would be nice if we could get guidance sooner so we can make decisions earlier, but we are very much dependent on what the government say and what the governing bodies say. And we certainly aren't going to work anything out with those guidelines. But my ambition, working with Next Diary, would be to accommodate as much curling as we possibly can within the guidance.
Okay. Thanks, Ali. Is there any points been raised, Gordon, on the comments?
Yeah,
made?
there's a question from Sandra, is how would contactless work for people coming from out with the area? It's just clicked off my screen, but anyway, or just occasional occasional play, I guess, has been a non-member. In answer, somebody's responded saying, well, there's different schemes for like a booking for tennis, and James McRae has got a guest house, he's got a scheme, an MD booking for accommodation, you book it and you pay as well. So we'll be looking at every aspect like that. You wouldn't, maybe got the implication was that you could only be a member to say book contactless, but we'd be looking at finding a way that if you're booking an ice, that you could pay online before you come, but we're also not going to bite the nose off to spite their face. Would have the ability to pay contactless at the door as well. But we're working through these things.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Gordon. Excuse me, folks. Now, the next round of questions come from Hamish McRae. Hamish, thanks for that. The phase reopening concerning the use of the ice rink by non-ice rink users, for instance, the Scottish Slimmers and other bodies who use the building, are they to continue to use the facilities? Gordon?
You're right to raise these concerns, Hamish, is because there's more than just the curling, and it predominantly is curlers that's on this call, but we've got skaters, ice hockey, but we also have 5 tenants, and we've also got occasional other users that book rooms, different clubs, associations, and I'll not get into who they are, but there are many. But in short, yes, they will. And having a variety of different users obviously creates different and its own challenges as well, of course. And ultimately, we need to consider the safety of all our users of the building, and we'll work with all the stakeholders to agree clear processes and procedures. 2 of our tenants, one of them is actually in the call just now, but 2 of our tenants are slowly trying to reopen, and they are working very closely with Ice Centre and with each other to ensure the social distancing. And no one will return, whether it's any of the ice sports or any of our tenants, without working with the management Ice Centre. They also will form part of our health and safety external audit when we do that as well, because I'm sure there'll be some blind spots that we won't have considered. So they're tenants with tenancy agreements with us. They're vital to the future of our centre and important in growing our centre as well. And absolutely, we will continue to do that, but we can only do it if it's safe for everybody. And as I said, the safe, for example, the 2 that's opened at the moment, they've got protocols around about the sanitisation, washing the hands, which toilets to use, how they actually meet and greet the person coming to their respective business. And that's through consultation with us. And rest assured, that will be the case if it's the occasional booking or any of our tenants or anybody actually joining and coming to the Ice Centre. I think it's important that we consider all aspects.
Okay, thanks, Gordon. Question 16, again from Hamish. Is the distance we're allowed to travel, as in phase 3, there is no mention of a specific acceptable distance other than people may drive beyond their local area? Gordon?
Well, I'll take you 2 questions because they're actually very similar.
I was going to say that. The 17 is, one more is the amount of people allowed to travel in a vehicle. So question 16.7, Gordon, if you can address that.
Okay. Well, these are broadly similar, and I'll take the kind of 2 questions together. In reality, we need to follow the government guidelines for both distance for social travel and for car sharing. And obviously there's different rules currently for within the same household and out with the household. But I guess this is one that everybody's got a duty of care and social responsibility to respect the guidelines. It just wouldn't be practical for the centre staff to police travel arrangements. As I say, I think each individual has a responsibility to comply with the guidelines at that time or at this time as well. And the individual surely wouldn't have put themselves at risk by travelling too far or sharing the car. I think there's another point that also comes into the previous question I answered round about the other users and the other tenants in the centre. We all know there's peak times, whether it's come into the slimming world or a changeover with the skating to the curling, whatever it is, there's those peak times. And one of the things we'll need to look at as well is the parking, and it's something that we'll liaise with our neighbours, the Quinn Park, the sports club at the Buck next door, and see if we can come to some sort of arrangement for parking and the likes of one-way system, so we're not crossing over and keeping a social distance the best we can. But in terms of the travel distance and the sharing car, again, that's one for the government guidelines and for us to respect and comply with that on an individual basis.
Okay, thanks, Gordon. We'll come on to the last question from Hamish. The age demographic of the curling fraternity, the majority of those who curl are probably in the over 50s age bracket, more than likely pensioners, Rossshire seniors, Inverness ladies, Ross ladies, etc. I don't think it'd be particularly gentlemen in there, Hamish, but some probably shielding at present. Their confidence to return to the ice will depend on the measures implemented to protect the users of this ring. Brenda, I think I know the answer to this question, but Brenda, if you could deal with that.
Yeah, well, you can add to it if you like, Mike, but I would like to think that we've put in all the procedures to enable them to feel safe and secure to come back to the sport. And we can only do that by following the guidelines and passing over the information to what's in place to the members or to the users, and for reassurance.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Brenda, I think this is still one for you. One that's come through from Ewan McDonald at the moment, and it links way back-to-back curling and that type of thing as well. Ewan's saying, what are the proposed session times to allow suitable prep time between sessions?
Yeah, well, we haven't actually got anything to propose time-wise yet, although our discussions have come to maybe starting the early evening session earlier, 6:30, 6:45, just to enable the extra time in between that and the later session to allow for the cleaning. So I think a minimum of half an hour between coming off the ice and starting another one. But, you know, it may mean to source that, we would have to maybe make it 7 end games. You know, that's part of our discussions as well. Make it 7 ends and that's it. But once we get a clearer picture, we'll pass it round for everyone to comment on. But we're at the early stages of that right now.
Okay. Thanks, Brenda. As regards the 7 ends, somebody should tell Codder, because I thought they play 6 ends with a bell. However, right, thanks, Brenda. As I say, Ewan, these things, we just go with the guidelines and we'll flag that up pretty early on. But I think it's, at this stage, we're not really thinking about what the times are being. We'll work back from that with the information that we have. So, okay. Now,
before we move on, Michael, there's another question here, and then we'll come back to the agenda ones. Hi, McLaren. Until refreshment facilities open, can curlers take their own personal refreshments?
Personally, I would see no issues with that, but I don't know, provided it they're not selling alcohol, so I think they're quite able to take it. Yes, I never actually thought of that. It's a very good idea. I don't see any difficulties, Gordon. I don't know. I don't think the bylaws don't not allow it.
But I think we would need to pay particular attention to where they place their items so that other people can't come into contact with it inadvertently. So instead of maybe at the end of the next to the barrier behind the hack, for example, something might get kicked, somebody might want to pick it up and do so automatically if something got moved. So we might need to think about social areas, about where they could place these things.
Well, it's, you know, we'll have to, it's a very good point to raise, and we'll have to apply the same sort of rules and procedures to food and drink. I say we'll work within the guidelines and try and be as flexible as possible, but we will be adhering to the guidelines. Right, any other points, Gord, coming through?
Tom Pendry has raised one, and I think it sits with Brenda and the reopening committee. Is it possible to have a questionnaire sent round the members or users to get an understanding of what they feel needs to be in place to help them feel safe, comfortable return to curling? I would add skating and ice hockey to that as well, but is a questionnaire and further dialogue as well.
I think that's a very good idea, Tom. Again, it comes down to effective communication. So the more effective our communications are, then the better response and feedback we'll get. But no, I think that personally is a very good idea. But Brenda?
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is where it's critical that we get everybody's contact details. Really critical. And if it means you're going back to your own clubs, and just to reinforce that point, please let us have your contact details. And then we could do things like that quite simply.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm still as you know, willing for or wishing that people would come forward with suggestions.
Absolutely.
At any time. We're open up, you know, for that. Because as you say, there's always a blind spot that you never thought of. But although we're taking all these guidance from all the sports, it's the actual practicality of playing the sport that you find that it's got the most benefit, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
okay, Gordon, any other points been?
There's a couple through. Kimberly Petrie, Keith's daughter. Also, when it comes to changeover and cleaning in between sessions, please consider the timings and how many staff will be needed to implement it. Great point, Kimberly. It's something that I'm looking at with the board. It may mean that we need to have more staff to make sure that everybody's safe. We're looking at how that would be scheduled, but it comes in hand and in tandem with how we can return, how many sheets, the fact that we haven't got, we won't probably be opening with the bar. So rest assured, Kimberly, it's no, we're just going to dump it on the staff as it is and expect to be the same. We are reviewing that, and you'll be kept informed with all developments and that, and certainly well before we actually open again. Fly McLaren, bear in mind, test and protect. How will a record be made of the people entering the ice rink? I think that's
a very good point. I'm sure that's in...
that's in the guidelines. We have got some talk of that with Sarah. We're mentioning that with the other ice rinks in Scotland. So yeah, that's ongoing too.
Yeah, and I think being able to pay in advance, having a documented evidence of that happening, and then some sort of checking sheet when we arrive, but that's where it's critical that we actually do have a members database. So we've asked for it a number of times and mentioned it in the call, so I think everybody will see the importance of that. So we need to know who's been at our premises, and we need to also to be able to contact them very quickly in the event that something should happen. We wouldn't have went down and it happened, but we need to be able to react to it. Before we go back to the questions, there's one more. Caroline Allen, staff member. The public sessions being once a week during the winter and 100 plus skating customers attending these, what are the plans to manage these sessions?
Well, Gordon, if you want to answer that.
Caroline, and I know you're furloughed and have been involved in the discussions about the reopening, but that's something that Brenda is consulting, well, the board, we are consulting with British Skating with regard to safe reopening, and within Brenda's remit for the safe reopening is Amanda is looking at this British Skating guidelines and making them appropriate along with Brenda and the team for the Inverness. And these numbers, clearly you couldn't have social distancing, so we would need to follow the government guidelines for that. And thanks for raising it, Caroline, and It's all part of the safe ability to open safely again.
Okay, Gordon, thank you. Okay, folks, we're now going to run on a series of questions from Dean Clark, and Dean, with his accountancy background, has raised some very interesting points. A lot of it tied around strictly and sort of worst case scenarios. So the first question, and I'll address each one individually because I'll deal with this. Given that strictly, which accounts for a large proportion of the Ice Centre's income, has been delayed until October, how will this impact on the Ice Centre's finances and cash flow? Well, it's not been delayed till October. We've worked very, very closely with the hospice, have a great relationship with the hospice, and we've now rescheduled it for May next year. So we've got the dates, and it's happening in May next year. And to give you a breaking news, Anton Dubeck is available. So to put it in two parts to this, to put it in context, I'm sure, well, Dean, you know that strictly was my idea. I envisaged it 11 years ago now, and I pitched it to the hospice because I knew that folk wouldn't turn out for the Ice Centre, but they would for the hospice. So it was an early, so I would say, joint venture, and shows the power of collaborative working. I ran it with Jane and the wonderful Linda MacDonald for 3 years, and I always knew it could raise large amounts of cash for both the Ice Centre and the hospice. To put all this in context, last year, curling income was 127,000. Ice hockey and skating generated 85,000. Strictly cleared, that's not what it raised, this is what it cleared once we paid all our expenses, which were considerable, over 320,000, which is over 160,000 for the Ice Centre. It's the hospice's single largest fundraiser, and it's very important to the hospice. To the Ice Centre, it's vital. Now, to directly answer your question, and we'll come back to strictly regarding the impact and cash flow of no strictly this year. Well, in basic terms, we make money over the winter and we lose money over the summer months. Over the summer months, which from March since the lockdown, we've received £48,300 in grants. I stress that's grants, 48,300. The staff are furloughed with wages being paid. We've switched off the plant very, very quickly. Again, well done, Keith. And that's saving us 7,500 to 8,000 per month. We've a healthy bank balance and very little outgoings. So what is traditionally a very bad season for us, we're in actually pretty good shape. So it's an ill wind, but this is actually where we are. So we'll come on to the next question, and again it follows in. What contingency plans have been put in place in case of strictly being cancelled or the reduction of income from this due to coronavirus restrictions? Well, we've now got EPOS and SAGE in place with monthly management accounts with far greater control regarding our finances than previously. Gordon's given us tremendous new capacity, and now we can monitor how each of the three sports are performing on a daily basis, and that allows us to take timely action. So as we introduce the reopening, we'll be able to monitor how things are going very, very closely. However, we are an ice sports centre, and if COVID-19 has eradicated confidence to such an extent that ice sports do not generate sufficient income, then we'll have to look at the long-term viability of the rink. Now, we are in a position, and we have the resources to flag this up early on and to look at options and take whatever actions are required. But I think it's worth stressing that we're heading into incredibly difficult times, probably unprecedented times. And really, we as a board, or any board of any business really, can give no assurance regarding the long-term future of the ice rink. There are many, many businesses that are not going to survive. However, I'm confident that we will, and we're putting things in place with new procedures which we'll deal with and new initiatives that we will be in pretty good shape, and the hard work of everybody will come to bear fruits. So, well, we can't give any promises, nor would you expect us to. We're monitoring things. We've got a real grip on what's happening day to day, hour by hour, and we can project things far better now because we've got the tools to do the job. I've dealt with 21, will strictly be delayed to the end of the year. Well, it's happening next May. Okay, Gordon, is there any questions there? There seems to be quite a lot of activity.
No further ones in the chat. Fiona Houston said that there's a system at the tennis club for booking and payment. I'm familiar with that because my wife's in the sports club. They've recently adopted it, but the licenses sit with the Lawn Tennis Association. Notwithstanding that, we could see if we can replicate it or adopt it or find a way to use something similar as well.
What's the reasons you can offer?
Okay, thanks, Gordon.
But there's no other questions.
Okay, that's good. We'll come on to, there's two other questions from Dean. The plans for the future in the accounts include to continue to seek and develop new income streams. Can you elaborate on what these may include and what stage they are at? Absolutely. When I took over, and with the capacity that our new CEO has provided, I basically constructed a root and branch review of every aspect of operations, with health and safety to the forefront. One of the most challenging reviews was how to maximise income from our core activities whilst improving the user experience. So, as that was the most challenging, I decided to lead it myself, and I was ably assisted by Gordon and Ali Cruikshank. The first step we took was consultation with our users and stakeholders, so presentations, a meeting with the current development group, the ice hockey diaspora, and because we had no real input or volunteers from skating, we engaged with officials from British skating. The second step was to see what was happening in ice rinks around Scotland and England. And we must have visited, I have no idea, Gordon, 15, 18, who knows. Aberdeen, Kelso, Dumfries, Preston, Blackpool, Elgin. We met with owners, managers, professionals. We got a whole raft of new ideas, maximising ice usage and increasing participation. Now, on that basis, we formulated new schedules which protect curling, but by more effective use of available ice time. For example, Friday nights for skating discos. On the wrong page. Friday night for skating discos gives more time to skating and ice hockey and increases dramatically our weekend income. Now, these new schedules are proven ones that work in rinks with similar demographics. And the draft proposals, which are going out for consultation with representatives of the various provinces and areas shortly, will then be presented to the board. So we've looked at where we are. I'm a scientist, so everything is evidence-based. We've looked at what's actually working well in ice rink, what's not performing. We've looked outside, we've consulted with our members, what they actually want. We've then gone out and we've looked at what works elsewhere. We've come back, we've looked at the assets we've got, the capacity we've got, and we've put new schedules which are going out for consultation with the various bodies. Nothing's written in stone. This is just the first of many series of discussions and interaction with members and users. Because if people don't sign up to these new schedules, then there's no point. So we've got to get buy-in from our users, which I'm sure we will, because they're in their interests, and we will be engaging actively in the coming month. So I can say no more than that. Is there any comments regarding that, Gordon?
Nothing in the chat regarding it.
I wonder what is in the chat. Okay, I'll move on to the last question, and then we'll open it up. And it's again from Dean. Thank you, Dean. Last year, there were a number of events over the summer at the Ice Centre. Green Living Expo, White Colour Boxing were there in line to take place this year. They have had to be cancelled or arranged due to coronavirus. What is the likelihood that these will take place again in the future? Well, I would address that myself. We're an ice centre, and our core activities and our future lies in effectively utilising the capacity we have to generate sufficient income from our core activities. These ad hoc one-off events, while they may produce a headline figure that seems initially attractive, you have to offset that against what we're actually losing by disrupting the skating, the ice hockey, the curling schedule or fixtures to facilitate these one-off ad hoc items. So there's what we raise, but there's also what we lose, and there's disruption it causes. And I just go back to say that it's not a core activity. Our success, our long-term success, will be by increased participation and more effective usage of the ice pad. That's where our future lies. So anything that distracts from that, unless it's something strictly, obviously, will take a back seat to the 2.0. So, okay, that's the last of those. We'll all answer your satisfaction.